things in life that are difficult to do. Climbing a fence is leaning towards you. Difficult. Kissing a woman leaning away from you, Calvin, is difficult. But there's other things in life, like trying to kiss your elbow. Difficult. When I was in junior high, my friends challenged me to a task that was very difficult. They said, Art, we want you to cross this gym floor at the junior high dance. Cross this floor and ask a girl to dance. Because, you got the girls on one side, you got the guys on the other side. So I mustered all the strength I could. I walked across that floor. How difficult could this be? I'm going to ask her to dance with me. I'm going to do it. They're all cheering me on. I'm going to do it. Nothing more difficult than walking across that hardwood gym floor in that junior high. Nothing. Until you have to walk back by yourself. Nothing is more difficult than that. Unless you learn to love again. We've all experienced love in various ways. Let me tell you a story that I know, that I've heard. It's a story about Sandi and Betty and Jim. Well, Jim was one of these guys in high school. It's a Hallmark story. It's one of these guys in high school who played football. He was a football star. And the girls loved him. The guys loved him. He was a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. In high school, Jim decides to ask this Sandi to be his girlfriend. Ever been there? Ever stood in front of a girl and asked him, Calvin, to be your girlfriend? Very difficult. She said yes. Betty would like to have had that Jim as a boyfriend. But this Jim and Sandi dated for a number of years in high school. And then for some unknown reason, ladies and gentlemen, this Sandi broke up with Jim. Well, as friends would do, Jim was a friend of Betty's, and they connected. They started dating. So there they were. This Sandi was out dating somebody else, and this Betty and Jim were dating as well. Well, as luck would have it, ladies and gentlemen, they got engaged. But because of their youth, because of their young age, they decided not to go through with it. This Sandi, who was dating another boy, broke up. This Jim and Betty broke up, and guess what happened? Ladies and gentlemen, they got back together, Jim and Sandi. Well, they dated a little bit longer, and then they got married. They were married for some 32 years. 32 years, the story goes. And then one day, Sandi decided to connect with Betty on what they call Facebook. Have you ever heard of it? As the story goes, there was some 30-odd years between the two connected. So the Sandi said, "Is this you? This is me. We live in Tucson. Where do you live?" They connected. It was, as the story has told me, it's August. It was August that they connected. But something dramatic happened in September. The Sandi, who had been married to Jim for 32 years, passed away. Suddenly, within 24 hours, passed away from leukemia. Well, a year and a half later, Jim gets a call from Betty. "I'm so sorry, I just heard that Sandi passed away." "Oh, high school friend, nice note." Jim writes back, "Thank you." Wasn't much for words. He had a little bit of a challenge for words. So on that day, something started to happen. Love began to happen. So Jim writes back after she writes back. They correspond back and forth. And then Jim says to this Betty, after some 35 years, "Maybe we should get together. I'm going to be in Tucson," he says. Let's get together for dinner." After 35 years. Can you imagine what it was like for Jim to drive up his car and to see Betty after 35 years? Well, apparently, she was a beauty. Still. Jim had aged a little bit. He had weathered a little bit. Well, love began to stir, and the flame began to heighten. And then Jim says, 35 years ago, I asked you to marry me. Would you marry me again? And Betty says, yes. Yes. After 35 years. Can you imagine how elated he must have been? Imagine how surprised she must have been to seeing this happen. See, love can happen again. Now, I tell you that story, and I know some of you have been through love, have lost love, have gained love, have been unloving. Some of you have been loving. What do you do with love? Could you really love again? Could Jim really love again? Well, the reason I know this story is because my middle name is Jim. My wife, after 32 years, passed away in a day. I hadn't seen Betty, her real name, in 35 years. We're getting married April 11th. After 35 years. And when I thought my life was over, when I thought my love was over, when I thought my everything was ending, ladies and gentlemen, love